Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Matt from Matt's Bookshelf, and today we're doing a little more of a casual Matt episode. You're probably wondering why I'm doing it this way, and that's because I was tightening the knob on my tripod, and I tightened too hard. I've been going to the gym a lot recently. I tightened too hard, and the knob came off. So now whenever I put my phone on top of the tripod, it just sinks down slowly. So for the time being, I'm going to record this episode and hopefully just this episode in a more podcast format. But today we're talking about the 2022 novel Mickey7 by Edward Ashton. You're probably wondering why I'm talking about this book, because it seems fairly random considering the content that's been previously on my channel, but I am trying to dive more into science fiction literature. And also, Mickey7, at least at the time I'm recording this video, has a movie coming out next week called Mickey by a filmmaker, Bong Joon-ho, who is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. So considering the movie's about to come out, I really wanted to read this book because Bong Joon-ho is one of my favorite filmmakers, and clearly there must have been something about the source material that must have been really inspiring to him. And so the novel is based off of a short story written about a decade before by Ashton, and the general idea of what inspired the novel is the exploration of crappy immortality, in which the immortal being who is free of having to worry about death is exploited and tortured by a corrupted society. This novel follows Mickey Barnes, the 7th iteration of Mickey, a colonist on an ice world called Niflheim, a barely survivable world populated with a hostile insectoid species known as the Creepers. And he's on a beachhead colony which has about between 80 to 120 colonists in total, and Earth, as we know it, is completely extinct, but there are colonies of humans all over the world, all over the galaxy, some with much more stable colonies than others, and this Niflheim colony is a relatively new one. They're just trying to land and see if survival is possible on this planet. To work on one of the many colony expeditions throughout the galaxy is a very prestigious job. Each beachhead colony will take about 1,000 applicants, but only accepts about 100 at best. Mickey, however, applies for a job in which he is the only applicant. As the colony is expendable, Mickey essentially becomes immortal, but at the price of becoming the colony's test dummy as they attempt to colonize a foreign and hostile world. As the expendable, he has his DNA loaded up in an organic printer, and every time Mickey dies, a new copy of him is printed out. As alluded to earlier, the narrator of the novel is the 7th version of Mickey, whose previous incarnations have died of such things as nuclear radiation while repairing the ship on its way to Niflheim, exposed to different bacteria and toxins that killed him, and then using the past dead bodies as vaccines to then jab into the next iteration of Mickey, which in some cases killed later versions of Mickey as well. Thanks to the organic printing machines, Mickey is able to be revived after each death, and with the help of a helmet that stores his memories, he's able to remember his previous lives, including many of the agonizingly slow deaths previous Mickeys were forced to suffer through. Mickey7 is very darkly humorous, and what really wowed me the most is how subtle the philosophical nature of the book is. The prose is never really explosive, especially because I recently finished Dan Simmons' Fall of Hyperion, which has a much more elaborate prose, but Mickey's tone naturally builds his character so effectively, and he's easy to love and root for. He's died and been reborn so many times, and his dry humor towards life and death and the dangerous situations that he finds himself in really befit his role. The novel literally begins with the line, "This is gonna be my stupidest death ever," after falling down a hole with no hope of getting out, before either freezing to death or being eaten by one of the aforementioned creepers. He does, however, survive, but not before his best friend, and I use friend in quotations because he really isn't that great of a friend, Birdo, believing that Mickey is basically screwed, reports back to home base and has another version of him printed out. So he comes back home and he finds Mickey 8 lying in his bed. Now the two of them have to pretend to be the same person because the person running the beachhead colony is this religious extremist who just completely denies the morality of the expendable as it's known in this novel. And so because resources are tight, because the crew knows each other very well, because it's a very small crew, and because they're constantly being thrown in life or death situations, them trying to balance being the same person whilst being able to survive on a limited amount of resources while trying to maintain the same injuries. So Mickey7 goes out and gets injured. Well, Mickey8 isn't injured, but he has to pretend like he's injured because Mickey7 isn't going to get people talking. It's all very, very engaging and kind of fun. Another philosophical element to the novel is Mickey's buyer's remorse towards becoming expendable. On the world he was grown up in, he sort of had no choice but to leave. And so he takes his job out of necessity, and plus he kind of likes the idea of becoming expendable. And as I said, no one else took the job, so it really shows how desperate he is. He compares himself to the ship of Theseus, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a thought experiment and paradox exploring what a thing is if all of its parts are gone and replaced. If all the parts of the wooden ship of Theseus are replaced over time, is it really still the ship of Theseus in its original form? I mean, to me, not really. And the same can be said about Mickey. Besides some DNA samples taken from the original Mickey, the organic printer uses entirely new parts when making the next version of him. Mickey 1 through 6 are dead. Their souls, I guess, are no longer here. And so Mickey7, what remains of the past 6 Mickeys in Mickey7 is the memories alone. And even then, those are the ones that are stored in his mind. He even later on questions. So some of his deaths he knows are certain because as he was dying, such as when he's being experimented on with the toxins and with the vaccines and with repairing the ship, the crew makes him put on the helmet as he's dying so he can save the memories. So for example, if the ship's reactor is damaged again, he'll know how to repair it. However, some of his deaths are a little more nebulous. He hears about a few of his deaths to the creepers from his best friend Berto, but as Mickey7 finally realizes when he comes back after surviving and pretending to be Mickey8, Berto completely sensationalizes his death, saying there's nothing he could do to save him, where in fact that wasn't true. Mickey obviously could have been saved. And so Mickey7 is definitely his own person, and I wouldn't really consider this a type of immortality because Mickeys 1 through 6 are dead. In addition to a really engaging plot, Ashton adds plenty of dark humor and world building of other failed colonies or expendables gone rogue. There's one rich kid expendable who, through ego, prints out a bunch of copies of himself and then goes on to attack another small colony in which it's just an army of him that populates that world, and then he goes to war with the government, in which the government fights hundreds of copies of this one person, and it's pretty funny. He also, that being the author, plays such special interest in the logistics and dangers of space travel. The weight of the ship matters. He's calculated how long it will take, first of all, how space travel is possible in this universe, and also how long it would take to get from different planets based off of distance, based off of the size of the ship or type of ship. And all of it, way over my head, I still found really engaging. And so these are my thoughts on Mickey7. It's a short novel, but one that I really just devoured because I really enjoyed it. And I would recommend it to all of my subscribers or all my listeners because whether you're into sci-fi or not, I tend to right now attract more of a classics audience. This book is very philosophical and one that did legitimately have me questioning the meaning of immortality, the meaning of legacy, the meaning of what our memories, the value of our memories. And there is a sequel to this book, which I do plan on reading. It's much shorter, at least a little bit shorter than Mickey7, but most of all, it's getting me excited for Mickey 17, the movie. Bong Joon-ho with Parasite, with Snowpiercer, and with his previous movies, which I am blanking on. He's a very, philosophical person. Parasite, even though its messages are very broad, the humanity of it isn't what's important. And I think there's a ton of humanity in Mickey7. And it just makes me really excited to go into this movie because now I understand what Bong Joon-ho saw in this book to want to make it into a movie and to want to make it his next film after the major and totally unexpected hit that was Parasite. So thank you if you've made it this far, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I will hopefully be back to my normal way of recording soon, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out here now. So thank you and goodbye.